Hi, my name is Frank Welke. I'm from Watertown, Wisconsin. I am currently in the BSM program at Herzing University. Prior to being in college, I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years, where I spent the entire enlistment stationed in Camp Pendleton, but also deployed 3 other times. A little background about that is when on my first deployment, I left about 9 months after I got out of boot camp to go on my first deployment. That was 6 months. Came back for about a year and a half, then left on a 8 month deployment where I got to travel the world and do everything that people think the military do. And then I came home and got word that I was going to be leaving again 6 months later. So once I left, I spent another 7 months in Korea. Came back about 4 months later, and then I got out, and here I am now in school. I'm on my sixth semester at Herzing for the BSM program, so I'm getting to the end. While I was in the Marine Corps, I learned a lot about leadership and medical procedures like emergency med and stuff like that. So I thought that nursing would be a good fit for me because I thought the knowledge that I learned in the Marine Corps was going to resemble the knowledge that I learned in nursing school, but it turns out it's completely different. There's not as many rules and regulations, and I don't. You can't do as many things as you would be able to do in the field because you're not crunched for time, or it's not like a life-threatening situation. So, so I always wanted to be a Marine when I was in grade school and high school. So when I got out of high school, I enlisted right away, and I left 3 months after high school to leave for my enlistment. I don't regret this decision. It was hard. It definitely made me a better man. But as soon as I got into boot camp, I realized that I was going to get married. That was a decision that I made prior to boot camp with my girlfriend. So that I didn't realize the toll that was going to put on her. So me leaving, yes, I went on for 3 deployments, and I was gone for 2 years out of the 5. But in between deployments, we also do things called workups. So that's where we go into the field and we practice and we prepare for our deployment. Well, that took a lot of toll on my wife, and that's what kind of deterred me away from re-enlisting and becoming a lifer. So, and a lifer is just where you spend your entire 20 years in a military, and you pretty much make your life out, and then you retire and get out. While I was in, I had a child when I was on my second deployment. I was not home for that. I didn't really spend any time with her because she was pregnant probably 6 months before the deployment. With that last 6 months, they were cramming field ops in, so I was only home, I think, 2 weekends out of that 6 months, and then we were going on 12-hour or 12-day field ops, coming back for 2 days, going back out for 12 the entire time. So I really didn't see any of that. And then she gave birth in the middle of my second deployment, so I wasn't able to come home and see that. So realizing that that's what's going to be for the next 20 years, I decided to get out and pursue something a little bit less rigorous. Now, when I was in, I thought that maybe I should be a cop. It kind of resembles what I'm doing in the Marine Corps. And I quickly thought to myself that that's probably not where I want to be. I kind of dodged a bullet when I was in the Marine Corps, not really going to combat. So it's not really my time. I served, I did it, and it wasn't my time. So I decided to go into something a little bit more not so life-threatening. So nursing was the next step, or the next step. So I enrolled, and I first did my classes at MATC my first semester, where I kind of prepared myself to get into the nursing program and kind of brush up on some things because I knew I was a little bit foggy when it came to school, being out for 5 years. So now that's pretty much where I am now. So I'm going to go into pretty much my life and how I got to where I am now. So I enlisted in the Marine Corps. When I was in boot camp, I got married. And then when I got married, she came out for a day, got married, she left. And then as soon as I got out of my schooling, she came out and moved out there. So then I spent 9 months on that workup. A lot of it was in the field, but not as much as my second deployment. Um, so it wasn't as bad. I wasn't like hating it too much. Then I went on my first deployment, and the time zone was different. So it was pretty much one day ahead and 12-hour difference. So we could only talk for about 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours at night, which kind of made it hard. And we kind of fought a little bit because there's communication that needed to be done there and communication that needed to be done here where I was, but it was hard to find a good time period to do it. So I spent that 6 months in Oki, and we went to Thailand. We did some stuff there. Then I came back, and then this deployment, my second workup and second deployment, is where it really got hairy. So we came back, and it was a MEU workup. So it's a totally different deployment than my first one. There was a lot of field time. We were going in the field, like I said before, for 12 days, come back for 2, leaving for 12. That was pretty much the entire workup for a year and a half. You know, we got some breaks in between. Every so often, we might get like 5 days off. So like every 2 months, we get like 5 days off, and we got our like 4th of July. But there was a lot of times where it was holidays, and they're like, "Oh, gotta go to the field." Have no choice. So we go out, and Molly would be doing her thing, you know, spending her holidays in California with only the few friends, when our entire family back home was having a good old time, and she's just sitting there without me. And it kind of put a toll on her because she moved out there thinking that she was going to be able to spend her time with me, but that was not the case. So then I left on my second deployment. We went to, and that was, like I said before, MEU, and that was all on ship. So that was 8 months sitting on a ship, no communication. I could only call for 20 minutes a week, and then I had to pay 40 cents a minute for that. So time was limited. There was only six phones for 3,000 people, so you can only imagine how many minutes that you were allotted on the phone. And so that put a toll. There was not as much fighting as the first one, only because you didn't have the chance to fight. There was you knew that you couldn't have an argument, because that's just going to ruin your 20 minutes a week that you have. So that went really well. Besides communication, I mean, they say distance makes the heart grow fonder, which it definitely did. But during that deployment, she had her first child, and I know that was rough on her. She had about 3 months of parenting without me, because I was not able to go home and enjoy that with her or see it. So that was another big problem with our relationship. And then I got back thinking that I was not going to go another deployment. I know I had a year and a half left, but chances are that I was going to deploy again was really slim. Well, my command knew that I was the only one that was going to be there or that could make it for that third deployment. So I had the highest rank out of everyone that was staying. So they told me, "Nope, you're going. You know, we need your leadership and skills." So I was like, regretting it. It's like, okay, I could have been out, but I chose to do the 5-year contract, so it's my fault, you know. So I pretty much spent that entire workup. They did do me a favor, and they put me in a different job while that workup was happening, so I was able to stay home the 6 months and enjoy it with my family while the people in the regular unit were going out in the field and spending their time working. So that was pretty nice. Really helped me, kept my morale high, and my wife's. So then I left on my third deployment, and that was a lot like Oki, where I could talk, you know, in the morning and at night. There were some times where I spent months out in the field that I couldn't get any communication, but I mean, that's just the name of the game. It happens, but it wasn't often. While I was there, I was studying a lot for nursing school, because I knew I had to take a test to get into the school and then do an interview. So I was studying a lot, trying to prepare myself. Once I got back from my third deployment, I took the TEAS test, and I did not score high enough. So then I went to MATC and did the AccuPlacer, which I scored high enough to get in there and do my basic classes that I needed for nursing school. So I went, got home. 3 months later, I was back in Wisconsin, and then I immediately enrolled into MATC to start my classes. So once I started my classes, started getting used to it, I had really good grades, and I was like, okay, you know, maybe I can take the TEAS test again and try out. Took the TEAS test, scored good enough to get in, and then I started my BSN program. Now, I'm about six semesters in, and so far I don't regret it. It gets hard. It was easy at first, but obviously it gets a little bit hard at the end. So I'm nearing the end, and this is where they are getting the harder classes and a little bit more rigorous on your homework and all that. So um, here I am, and this is me.